go. And students are logging in. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, we started a bit late, had a few technical issues that we needed to sort out. What I'm going to do from my side, I'm just going to introduce Global very quickly, and then I'm going to hand over to Rachel whilst I download her presentation in the background. But basically, Global Education is the local agency in South Africa that represents over 300 universities worldwide, and UAL being one of them. And tonight, Rachel's going to talk a little bit about the university. We've got a couple of past students or current students. I'm not sure if Ananya is a current student that will give their experiences of what it was like at the university and give you a bit of information from their side in terms of what they've done. And then we'll open up to you at the end of the presentation to basically ask as many questions as you'd like. And we'll have a bit of a roundtable discussion on what the university has to offer and any other questions that you may have. But just in terms of what Global does, we will assist you with the entire application process, the visa process, help you with the accommodation, and that entire process. So you don't have to worry, you just have to worry about picking a university to apply to. So with that being said, Rachel, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm going to disappear for a couple of seconds to download your presentation.
Thanks very much, Nico. That was, I must put my hands up to that one and apologise. I had some issues joining just now, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to communicate that with you whilst you were just waiting. But thank you so much for your patience. The presentation is on its way over to Nico. He'll be able to share. But if I could just start off by saying, first of all, thank you for coming this evening. My name is Rachel, so I work at University of the Arts London in the international team, and I'm really pleased that we're joined tonight by two of our students as well who have actually just graduated. So Henry and Inanya, congratulations first of all. But what I really wanted to be able to share with everyone this evening is firstly about UAL, but really drawing on the experience that our students have. And I couldn't think of a better example than Henry and Ananya, who've been through that whole experience. They've started UAL, they've been at UAL when it's in blended learning, when it's been in lockdown, when it's come back out of lockdown, and through that entire journey. So I hope that that will be beneficial for you to hear about as well. And please do, submit questions as we go through. As Nico said, we'll have a Q&A at the end. And if you've got questions directly for Ananya or for Henry, then please do pop those in the Q&A box as well. So just while we wait for the presentation, actually, Henry, if we could start with you, if you could introduce yourself and the course that you have studied. Oh, thank you, Nico. And just a little bit about where you're up to now.
Yeah, so my name is Henry. I studied on BA Costume for Theater and Screen at Wimbledon College of Arts. Yeah, so, and then right now, we've just graduated. I'm going to be staying in the UK with the graduate route visa. And so I'm currently just like looking for jobs, kind of dabbling into different routes post education and just kind of seeing what comes next.
Brilliant. Thanks, Henry. And Ananya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ananya, and I too am a recent graduate in interior spatial design from the Chelsea College of Arts. And I think my situation is pretty similar to Henry as well. I just got my graduate visa and I've been applying for jobs, and meanwhile taking on a few part-time jobs to keep myself busy and working with UAL. And I will be happy to share my experience with you through my 4 years. I'm just happy to answer all your questions.
Thank you so much, Ananya. I think we might have just lost Nico and the presentation. So, but that's all right. We can carry on. Ananya, Henry, I'm going to introduce UAL a little bit now. So if you want to pop your cameras off or anything, then I'll call you back in very shortly. So I'll just start off. I mean, some of you may already be familiar with UAL. And for some of you might know one of our colleges will be quite new to it. So I just wanted to first introduce that University of the Arts London consists of 6 colleges. So this is London College of Fashion, Central St Martin's, Campbell College of Arts, Chelsea College of Arts, Wimbledon College of Arts, and London College of Communication. And we actually have one institute as well, which is the Creative Computing Institute. Welcome back, Nico.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's okay. We will push through. So we are, UAL is basically the overarching university and community that brings these colleges together. And as you'll see there, is starting to be shared on the screen. We are extremely proud that for a number of years now, we have been second in the world for art and design. And so this really covers all those subject areas that I'll be speaking about very shortly. Next slide, please. And so this is actually one of our colleges, Central St Martin's, and really no matter what college you're at, you are part of the UAL community. And actually when you're studying at one college, you'll have your teaching primarily at one, but you have access to the facilities in all of the colleges. So this is a really big community. Next slide, please. And again. Really here it's just talking about how we everything that we do in the colleges and the university is directing you towards your creative future, and that's really the way to approach some of the questions you might have about which courses you might be interested in taking, and we'll go into that a little bit more as we go through. Next slide, please. As the name suggests, and as you might already know, we are based in London, and this is a huge part of the UAL identity. It influences our students, it influences their lives, and it will be your home while you're studying with us. So we're very lucky to be in London as the creative capital of the world. It provides our students with so many opportunities, as I say, inspiration in the work that they're doing. One more slide, please. Also, London is a completely international city, and we have such an amazing cultural scene. So we have 170 museums, I think it was at the last count, 240 theatres. We have, hundreds of festivals happening every year, and there are about 8 million of us that call London home. And actually, about a third of people in London were not born in London, they were born from outside of the UK. So it's a really multicultural city, and there's about 270 different nationalities. So there's always so much going on, and it's such an inspiring place to be. Thanks, Nico. And again. So I just really wanted to give you a brief introduction to each of our colleges, and then I'll go a little bit into the subjects which we offer across them. So next slide, please. So Campbell College of Arts is a college which is in the southeast of London. So this has got a really beautiful combination of quite traditional art school, and also we have our foundation centre there, which has been a renovation as part of the college. So you've got this really nice contrast between kind of some of the older part of the building, which you can see there with the kind of wooden panelling in some of the studios, but also really modern facilities and galleries and studios. And actually, Campbell College of Art, so as I say, it's home to our foundation centre, and it's actually our only college where we have accommodation on site, so you can kind of see that from the classroom. So it's a really nice way to get to know the college and when you first arrive. Next slide, please. And then again. And Central St Martin's, now quite a few of you may have already heard of Central St Martin's, one of our most popular colleges and famous worldwide, whether it's the from the fashion that we have there, architecture and design, and as you'll actually see on the slide, our connections with London Fashion Week have even meant that we've had full-on catwalks as part of that week within the college itself, and it's such a vibrant community. It's one of our bigger colleges as well. It's about 5,000 to 6,000 students, so it's a really exciting place to be. And this is both over a building that's in King's Cross, so that's where the Eurostar goes from in London, so sort of north of Central, and then we also have another site very, very close to King's Cross, which is in Wimbledon, Granary Square, where we have our foundation students having that dedicated space for their studies. And along two, please, Nico. And then next up, we have Chelsea College of Arts. So this is where Ananya has been studying. And this is a very classic art school. This is a graded and listed building. So just you can see it's quite traditional, but again, it has that modern element and the facilities in there. So the Chelsea College of Arts has a lot of our fine art provisions. So whether this is painting, could be multimedia, and we also have textiles down at Chelsea College of Arts. And as you can see, each of the colleges here have some really hands-on studio space, which makes it just such an exciting place to be. And on two, please. And London College of Communication. So this is a little bit, so this is what we would call south of the river, so south of the River Thames in London. And this is in a really great area, and LCC is quite well known in UAL for its sense of community. And what you'll actually see on the slide there as well is a kind of design of our new building. So this is actually being built right over the road from where LCC is now. So in a couple of years' time, there will be a relocation, but it won't be going far, and it will have the same and even more facilities. So this was originally a printing college. So you'll see there were some of the kind of old print facilities, but also where we have our film studios, TV, animation, all that kind of screen and media base is down at LCC. And two again, please. And then London College of Fashion. Now, London College of Fashion, quite a lot of people will usually spot it when they come to London, because one of the sites is on Oxford Street. So it's very central, but it actually has 6 different buildings. So these kind of run through central London. So they'll have dedicated spaces for different courses that they do, such as shoes, like shoemaking, and various kind of studios. Again, this is one of our colleges which is actually relocating, and there's a design of it there, and this is moving to Stratford, which is in East London, and is what you might know as the Olympic Village. So when London hosted the Olympics in 2012, they had this massive, beautiful space, and it is now being home to a lot of cultural facilities. So theatres are moving there, museums, and other universities as well, and that will be the new home of London College of Fashion in just a few years' time. So there will be gradually those 6 different buildings, all those students will be coming together in this amazing big fashion community over in East London. So if you were to start with us next year, it's likely that you will have some of your studies in the current buildings and some of your studies in the brand new facilities as well. Thank you, Nico. And Wimbledon College of Arts. Now, a lot of you will recognise Wimbledon from the tennis, and that is exactly where it is. So this is a really nice leafy part of southwest London, and this is where Henry has graduated from. And as you might already be guessing from some of the pictures there, this is our home to performance and theatre, set design, theatre design, performance and costume for performance. And so although this is a slightly smaller college, so when not in terms of facilities, but the amount of students is about 2,000, it's a really nice community, and it has that dedicated space for all these courses that really complement each other. Thank you. Next slide. And then the UAL Creative Computing Institute. Now, this isn't a college on its own, but it lives within Campbell. So that building lit up with all those nice colours on the slide there is Campbell College of Arts, and that's where its home is at the moment. Now, you can study creative computing either as a standalone degree, but actually this is also available as a diploma year. So if you were doing an undergraduate degree and with us for 3 years, you could do this after your first year, your second year, or actually after your 3rd year. And so it's a great way to get an additional set of skills when you're studying. Thank you. And so I'm going to touch on a few of the areas of our courses. Now, the reason I'm not going to list them all is because we have about 250 different courses, and I know that you've already done amazing by turning up on your Friday night. So I'm just going to touch on the broad subject areas, but if you have a question about a particular course that you'd like to know about, or if we have it, then you can always pop that in the Q&A box as well. And we can just tap through these fairly quickly, Nico. Thank you. So starting off, we've got 3D and product design. So 3D can include things like furniture design, but also jewelry. So a lot of these are based primarily at Central St. Martin's. And accessories, footwear and jewelry. So these are both based at, so for London College of Fashion, we have specific accessories courses and footwear and jewelry there, but also within that product and 3D design at Central St. Martin's. Thank you. And as I mentioned, sort of at LCC, we've got animation, interactive design, film, and sound design. So I should just say on a note here that sound design is not a music-based degree, but this is more about immersive experiences. It could be sound design for fashion shows and things like that. So just to separate that from the idea of it being music-based. Thank you. And architecture, spatial and interior design. So we also have within architecture, we have things like cities and innovation, and we have interior and spatial both together and as separate degrees. Thank you. And communication and graphic design. What I'd really like to say on this one is that we offer this subject area at least 3 of our colleges. And what's important to remember is even if they have quite a similar name, it's not the case that it's the same curriculum taught at different locations. They all have a slightly different angle to them. And so it's quite important if you're thinking about the subject area to have a look at on the course page. It will list the exact modules and they will differ slightly, but it's also worth thinking about the type of environment that you would like to be in. So at that college, it could be London College of Communication. So you could be learning graphic design within a kind of media and screen community, or you could be doing it at Central St. Martin's, where you've got a design and a fashion community. So it's thinking about those other factors as well. Thank you. And we have curation and culture. So with these programs, this is really about the kind of curation and display of art and the experience for other people. And so if you're really interested in art and design, and you're maybe not as hands-on yourself, you're not taking art and design in school in a way that you actually have a practice, this could certainly be a way into the art and design and creative world. Thank you. And I already touched on the Creative Computing Institute just before. And then we have our fashion, business and management courses. So this can be focusing on international fashion business, branding and merchandising, fashion management. So these all sit within the Fashion Business School at London College of Fashion. Thank you. And then fashion communication. So we have some courses both at London College of Fashion and Central St. Martin's. So this is really about that kind of that middle bit of fashion. So we really have the breadth of everything you would do with it, in the sense of we have the design, we have the making, we have how you communicate and market these products once you have them. So it could be fashion photography or fashion journalism, and then also the Fashion Business School to have the model to take these things out to market and have your own brand. So it's really that that full range of careers in going into the fashion industry. Thank you. And of course, fashion design. What I would say on fashion design as well, and on the actual kind of making, is that a lot of our students will maybe the first thing you might think of with fashion design would be fashion women's wear, and we get a lot of applications for that. But we also have fashion design in lots of other areas, and it can be as specific as knitwear, and like here, pattern cutting. We have menswear, sportswear, sportswear is a really exciting part of fashion, especially at the moment. And so it's worth thinking about, or maybe not ruling out those other ones that might not be the first one that comes to your mind when you think of fashion design. Thank you. And we do have fashion, styling and makeup. So within makeup, we have cosmetic science as well. And so this is probably the main degree at UAL that actually asks for a kind of science base, because it's not so much that there are styling courses, but the cosmetic science course we have is really about developing products and developing a brand. So everything from their creation to branding and taking them out to market. Thank you. And of course, we have fine art. So this can be studied in multiple ways at UAL. So we have it as very kind of specific degrees. So it might be fine art painting, fine art drawing. It could be ceramics, or we have ways that you can do multidisciplinary fine art. So if you're still exploring all of those areas, then you might consider doing, for example, the fine art at Chelsea, which allows you to do it in a multidisciplinary way. So not really just staying in one area. Thank you. And illustration, we have some really amazing courses in illustration, and our course at Campbell is extremely well known, and there have been some amazing students that have come out of that course. And on a personal note, it is always one of my favourite parts of our student exhibitions to see some really exciting work. And on that note, actually, if you go to the UAL homepage at the moment, you'll see a tab that says Graduate Showcase. And this is our online degree shows. So usually at the end of every year, we have our final year students display their work. So this is an amazing celebration of everyone reaching that point and showing their work, but it's also an opportunity for industry to come in and for you to talk about your work. Students also sell work, and there are lots of opportunities through these shows, but because of the limitations in the last year, we've put all this work online, which has the benefit that you are able to go on and see it. So you can actually log on to the Graduate Showcase, and you can search by a theme of work, you can search by the subject or the college. So I'd really encourage you to have a look on there for a bit of inspiration. Thank you. And then journalism, PR, media and publishing. So these all sit within the London College of Communication. And these are some of the courses where, again, if you perhaps have not got a portfolio, or you're not kind of design based, this is with the exception of photography, some of these courses are a great way to get into the creative industries. Thank you. And as I mentioned before, this is our suite of courses at Wimbledon College of Arts. And with our photography courses as well, so this can fall into, say, fine art photography. So that might be more kind of using photography to explore questions and ask questions. But we also have things like documentary and journalism photography, so documentary photography and journalism, which is more kind of showing a narrative and exploring that. So if you're interested in photography, I'd encourage you to have a look at that range of courses and see where it fits with your work. Thank you. And textiles and materials. So what we mean by materials here is some of our courses, for example, like we have one called Sustainable Futures, which is actually to do with developing sustainable materials. So for example, we had a student that used pineapple wool to develop new materials. We've had students do projects like there was mushroom leather, and there was actually one year, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago now, that someone grew a shoe in a kind of lab setting. So it's really experimental and looking at those kind of alternative and sustainable ways of using textiles and materials going forward in the fashion industry. Thanks. Okay, so just in case anybody's not familiar, some of the terminology I wanted to explain was our undergraduate courses. So this is really they're also called bachelor's courses, so usually 3 years full time. Some of them might be 4. And one of the other bits of terminology we use is pre-degree. So a lot of our students will also study perhaps a year before their undergraduate degree. And I'll go on to that in just a moment. the final one that we have is postgraduates. This is also called a master's, which is after you've already got a degree or significant work experience, so it's a bit more of a specialist study. But if I could actually bring in Ananya here, I'd like to hear a bit more about your experience studying the difference between the pre-degree program, so you did the foundation with us, and undergraduate, and really what the differences were in those two programs and style of studying.
Yes, absolutely, Rachel. So for me, the reason why I took up a foundation was also because I come from India, and I think the way art and design was taught there was drastically different from how art and design was taught here. So when I went in for my interview, I actually had applied for the BA, but they recommended I do the foundation first, just so that it would be easier for me to cope, and second, learn the education system, how things work in the UK, and sort of get a stronger base before I move on to the BA. So for me, that really helped because I wasn't used to the independent learning system, sort of going to the library and researching a lot extensively on our projects, and just experimenting with various forms of design that was available to us. So I think it was a good bridge for me when I did get into my BA, because I understood what the course would expect of me, how much time I would have to dedicate to my work and social life. And I think that year was a good buffer year because it also allowed me to settle into the city quite well. And for my BA, then I was fully ready because they even helped me with my portfolio, statement of purpose. They sort of help you through the whole thing as well when you reapply to UAL if you are interested again. So yeah, that was my experience, and I'm glad that I did the foundation before I went on to do with the BA.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm doing all the cliches today. We can go on to the next slide, please, Nico. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the foundation program that Ananya had studied on. So we have a foundation, so it's sometimes called FAD, which is short for the Foundation Diploma in Art and Design. So we tend to just shorten that. And this is based either at Campbell College of Arts or Central St Martin's, but they are slightly different. But really, as Ananya was saying, they are designed to prepare you for further study. And something I want to mention here is that this is something that UK students do as well. So a lot of schools don't have the breadth of subjects in art and design as we offer at university. So whilst there are some core subjects, perhaps it might be painting or drawing, it's quite unlikely that students have had the opportunity to do anything sort of related to fashion or really as granular as some of our degrees are in terms of documentary photography or animation or footwear. And there are exceptions to this, certainly, but it allows that year to explore and experiment. So I also meet a lot of students who have multiple practices, which is absolutely fine and something that should be nourished and should continue through your studies. But it can mean that when you come to apply, it can be quite hard to choose which one to do, because without doing these subjects full time, it's hard to know how each one of them will develop. So the foundation can really help in that way. And we have two different streams in how you can do it. So we have a diagnostic stream. So this is diagnostic in that you can explore lots of different areas. And then as you go through, it will narrow down. So if you like, it's like your tutor diagnosing with you the most appropriate course for you to take. So they will help you identify your strengths and, you know, explore those different areas to then, as I say, narrow down, and then you'll choose your undergraduate degree from the foundation at the end. And we also meet students who are very certain of what they want to do, and that might be fashion and textiles. But still within fashion and textiles, you're not sure if it's menswear or it's women's wear or accessories or sportswear. And so within that channel, you still get to experiment and try a bit of all of those subjects and find out what you're good at, find out what you're enjoying the most before you make that commitment for 3 years on your bachelor's degree. So these programs do guarantee your place on your bachelor's degree, but it gives you the breathing space after school to explore those options. Thank you. Next slide. And we also have so we have the 2 foundation courses, but we also have preparation courses specific to fashion. So you might already know that you want to do fashion, but you might not have had the opportunity to really kind of get your teeth into it. You might have an interest, but it's not something that was available at school. And so we have these dedicated programs. So the Introduction to Fashion and the International Preparation are based at London College of Fashion. So they're very specialist. And again, they allow you that first year, and you're still taught in the college in the same environment by the same teaching staff that teach on the undergraduate and the postgraduate degrees. But it gives you a level of flexibility that you don't get in the undergraduate degree to explore within that subject area. And then the introductions here in preparation for design, media, and screen are based at London College of Communication. Might hear it called LCC. And again, this is an opportunity if you know you enjoy that subject area, but you haven't had a chance to explore TV and media and photography, and you want a little bit of time to explore those. Thank you. And then there's a new program which I'd just like to speak about, and I know we've had quite a few students from South Africa already apply to this. So this is the pre-degree online, so it's equivalent to the foundation program, but it's a little bit more compressed. So this was really developed out of a lot of our courses have been going online in the last year out of necessity, but we really saw an opportunity and a demand for courses to be online, at least for that first bit before joining us full-time for your undergraduate degree. So in the same way as the foundation, you are guaranteed a place on one of our undergraduate courses. One of the things I wanted to mention is that although it does very much mirror the foundation curriculum, the only subject area it doesn't have is fashion and textiles. But because this runs from November until June, it's a nice opportunity. You know, it could suit your circumstances. So I just wanted to let students know about that quite new course as well. Thank you. And then if we have any postgraduate students joining us this evening, we do have a really vast range of postgraduate courses as well, and we are Europe's largest postgraduate art and design community. So we've got some graduates doing some absolutely amazing things in these fields as well. Thank you. And then this slide is really showing off a little bit because we've got alumni. Our graduates are absolutely everywhere. And the more that you know about UAL, the more that you'll see them everywhere and you'll notice them and you'll see them referenced. But we're really proud of this community, and they're already out there. As you can see on the screen, you know, over half of the Design at London Fashion Week are UAL graduates, 2/3 of British Designer of the Year. So the industry is already really familiar with the standard of UAL graduates and the standards of creative output, and so it's putting you in really good stead for your future, for your creative future. And Henry, if I could bring you in here a little bit, I'd love to know a little bit more about what you're planning now, and maybe if you could explain a little bit about the graduate route visa as well. So this allows students to stay for 2 years after their studies to really kickstart their career. How's that been for you so far?
Yeah, it's been good. So the graduate route visa is yeah. So it's just like you said, it's a visa that allows students who successfully completed their course to stay for 2 years, with no requirement to, of like what kind of work you need to do. You are allowed to work freelance, things like that. There are a few like requirements of like, I think there's a few industries that are barred from that, but it allows for a lot of flexibility around that, before, like, I'm the first year that is allowed to do that, and before kind of me and Ananya's graduating class, it wasn't an option. And so now I think me and speaking for like most of my friends here are all kind of in the stage of kind of using our network, kind of figuring out like, okay, what does the industry look like? There's a lot of connections we've all gotten during our course and during our time there at UAL, and then also using a lot of UAL services to kind of look and apply for different opportunities. UAL has a really great jobs board for current students and alumni that I've used a lot. And now I'm just kind of in the process of seeing what the next steps are. And I think that for each graduate, there's a very different process. Like I have a friend who's kind of starting up a shop and selling kind of merchandise, who did an illustration course. I have friends that are working in like kind of all different fields, and both very related to their course and also kind of people who have found, you know, tangentially related things that are kind of, they're exploring off in their own direction.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And next slide, please. So something that if you're thinking about applying to UAL, you might have already started thinking about is portfolio preparation. Now, this doesn't apply to 100% of our courses, but the vast majority, because they're quite hands-on studio courses, will require a portfolio. The reason that we ask for this is because it's the best way that we can see and understand your ideas and your ability. But what I want you to bear in mind is if you're putting your portfolio together in school, outside of school, all of that can go into it. We're not looking for it to be professional or perfectionism. We just want to see potential. And so this is the best way that we can see yourself be communicated. And whilst we do look at your school grades, you know, if you've got top marks in science and maths and English, it won't tell us a lot about whether you're a good illustrator or fashion designer. And so this additional requirement really allows you to show off, allows you to show us exactly what you're about. And it's something really nice for us to see as well, to make sure that you are being placed on the course that is right for your work as well. Thank you. So I'm just going to touch on a few points here, but we could spend 2 hours talking about portfolios, but I'll touch on this briefly. And then I just want to say that within the next 2 weeks, we will be sharing a whole schedule of webinars for this autumn. So you'll get sent this through Global, and this will include very specific webinars on portfolio preparation. But this just gives a kind of idea, if it's something you're thinking about now, that as I've said, we want it to kind of show you and your personality. So try not to get too kind of hung up on the certain structure that it has to be, because we still want it to reflect your work the best way you would like it to be displayed. Development is really important. As I said, we don't want it to be perfect. If you have been working on a piece and it didn't work out and you're still trying to figure it out, then that's really, really interesting to us. And how you navigate that and how you work around that is something that you will come across time and time again in your studies and in your career. And so please do include all the messy bits as well. And we like to see variety. So even if you're applying for a fashion course, it doesn't just need to be drawings of people with garments on. Show us all the range of things that you can do, because a lot of these will have other practices kind of flowing through them. So show us where you're at now, what you're enjoying, and don't feel that it has to be very narrow to the subject for undergraduate level. And do include your most recent work, but you can have a range in there, as I say, if it's whether it's in school or outside of school as well, is no problem. And the second really important part of your application is your personal statement. So again, we look at the portfolio, we look at your school grades, but I'm sure that there are more things to you that won't be covered in those that we would love to know about. So showing us your understanding of the subject. So, you know, we want to know why you're interested in it. And you don't have to have been interested in this forever. It doesn't have to be that I always knew I wanted to be a fashion designer. If you went to a show 6 months ago and you were like, this is fantastic, I would love to do this, then that is equally as valid as someone who's wanted to do it the whole life. So just tell us about those experiences. And on the course pages, do have a look at these. These have got some really good guidance and tips in, because the part that is what we look for is written by your course leader. And so this is what they're writing on there is really what they want to see their students demonstrate. So do include those as well. And Anya and Henry, if I could bring you both in on this part, we're just going to talk a little bit about what it's like to live in London, because it's not just about coming to study, this is going to be your home for the next 3, 4, even more years. And maybe, Anya, if you could start about your experience settling into London and how it's been.
I think moving to a new country, a new city completely is always a bit daunting. But I think the best part with London is it's so diverse and welcoming in so many ways that you do find your way, you do find your crowd, you find the things that you like, because this city has so much to offer in terms of entertainment, design. You have so many museums that you can go to for free, exhibitions that happen all year round. If you're into theater, lots of plays and food, lots of different kinds of restaurants. So I feel like it takes a bit of time to settle in because it can be overwhelming. But I think meeting people on your course, taking that extra effort, I think it's important to put yourself out there. All of us do get nervous, but I think that's the one good way to make friends. If you're living in a student accommodation, make the most of that. I'm still friends with my flatmates in my student accommodation 4 years ago, and I'm living with one of them right now. So, you know, it's all about how you make your connections, how comfortable you feel. And there will be days where it gets hard. That goes without saying, but I think if you're at it and you take it one day at a time and you just enjoy the whole process of living in London, I think it makes the whole experience complete and just exciting in so many ways.
Thank you. And Henry, what are your top tips for settling in?
Oh,
and making the most of London as well, like beyond settling in, what should people go and get stuck into?
Yeah, I think for like settling in, I think that like there's a lot to be said for just like exploring and just like kind of putting yourself out there and seeing what you find. It's a lot of things that like Ananya said, where it's, you know, going out and doing things and inviting like just someone you meet to like go to a museum together, or to go on a walk through a park you've never been to, or, you know, there's so many things to do in London and so many areas to explore. Like I remember when I first got here, just almost like picking a station on the tube map and saying like, let's just go there and and see what's there. But then also there's a lot to be said too for like finding ways to make London your home, because London is so big. It can be really helpful to like kind of have like a local shop that you go to do your weekly groceries, where you get to know maybe the people, or to cook, have a regular day you cook dinner with your friends, or, you know, all these things that you can make it feel more like home, or whatever home means to you. But yeah, like I think that there's also like a lot of anxiety around, you know, moving off to college, moving to university, experiencing a big city for the first time, or, you know, whatever, changing, just all the changes that come. And I think a lot of it is just like kind of throwing yourself in and knowing that everything's going to be okay, and that you'll find whatever you want, wherever. Yeah.
Thank you. I think you're right. And I think, you know, we all get anxious. I mean, none of us here are from London, so we all have to take that big leap at one point, and I think you often get out what you put in. So thank you both. Next slide, please. So this is just for anyone who knows London. The blue line through the middle is the River Thames. And the black squares, as I was mentioned before, some of the colleges have multiple sites. So all the black squares are UAL colleges, and all the pink houses that look like monopoly houses are our halls of residence as well. So if you can see there in the middle, if you've got good sight, you'll be able to see Big Ben and Oxford Street. So these really are dotted around. This is pretty much just, this is a zoomed in London. This is zones 1 and 2. So there's, you know, another 3 to 6 on the kind of peripheries of this, but just to show that we're based all around the city there. Thank you. And with our halls of residence, so as a student with us for the first time, you are guaranteed a place in halls if you would like to take it. It is a really good way to meet other students. So they won't necessarily be on your course or in your college, but they will be in UAL. And it's just that instant family that you get when you move in. Like Ananya was saying, that she's still living with someone that she lived with in her first year. And there are a range of accommodation to suit different tastes and needs and locations as well. Thank you. And if we can keep going through. So this is really just, I just wanted to say a little bit about living in London, but I think Ananya and Henry have given a really good overview of that. And there's so much going on. So even though it can be a bit nerve-wracking, there is so much to do in a way that it's almost like, make sure you still balance it with your studies, because there are so many galleries and things. And even within, so even just within UAL, there are different societies and sports clubs. So for example, we have the big welcome when you first arrive. So this is what you might also call Freshers Week. And we have these 2 weeks where you can join any sports club or society for free. And you go and you try it out. You see if you like the activities, see if you like the people. And there are lots of volunteering opportunities and all sorts of things available. And that's just linked to the university. That's before you even look at the opportunities that you can find in London. Thank you. And then, so this is, you know, 18,000 students is just UAL. The city itself has about 400,000 students. There are lots of universities here, so lots of students are coming here for the first time, making it their home. So, you know, you're not alone in this. Thank you. And for when you are feeling anxious, no matter whether it's to do with moving to a new place, figuring out funding for the first time, you might need to speak to someone about your mental health. Maybe not when you first arrive, maybe during exams or at any point. We have those facilities and we have teams dedicated to this, whether it's for example, mental health first aiders at every single site, your personal tutor, or advice services that you can walk into at most colleges. And a lot of the appointments are online at the moment, so it's really easy to arrange that. We know that this isn't just about your studies, this is about your life while you're with us. And so there is lots of support in place to make sure that you are as happy as you can be when you are studying with us. Thank you. And then I know that you're at the beginning of your journey now, but ultimately, this is about launching your career and it's about your future. And so we have an amazing careers and employability team. So whether this is about looking for internships during your summer terms, you know, it might be getting involved, volunteering in capacity with Fashion Week, could just be someone having a look at your CV and giving you a few tips. I would say engage with them earlier than you think you need to, just so that you can start exploring ideas and they can give you those tips so that when you see that job that you want, you are ready and you are prepared to go for it. And they have talks and lots of kind of opportunities for you to develop throughout the year. So that's just one to remember once you have settled in, you found your feet, that will certainly help you in launching your career in a few years' time. Thank you. And we're almost at the end now. So I know that this has been a lot of information, and it's, whilst I apologize that I was a little bit late because of technicalities, but this is a lot of information to squeeze into even a few hours. And so really, please have the benefit of all the experience and knowledge that global education have. Reach out to the counsellors and they will help you navigate all of this information. And something which is really unique as well that we offer through Global is one-to-one portfolio advisories. So if you've got your head around all the courses and you know which one you want to do, you've looked at all the criteria, but you're putting the work together and you're like, okay, I just need to bounce this off someone. What we can do is arrange for you to see an academic. So this will be an academic who is someone that makes decisions on portfolios for courses, and they can give you informal advice. So it's nothing to be worried about. It will just be a casual chat. So they might give you some pointers like, we'd love to see more of this, or have you actually looking at your work? Have you considered this course you might not have heard of? So it's a really great opportunity for someone to see that work before you make your application. As I mentioned before as well, we've got a really big range of webinars coming up, and we're very lucky to have Henry and Ananya here today, but we also have student ambassadors on the UniBuddy service of the UCAS website. So if, you know, over the weekend you think of a question that you want to ask one of our current students, you can go on there. We've got about 12 students on there, and actually one of the students is based in Cape Town. So if you've got particular questions based on their subject or their experience, then that's a way that you can speak to our students in the meantime. And thank you. Thank you. I think we're at the end now. Have we had any questions come through?
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. I think we survived this, a few technical glitches in the beginning, and you can add PowerPoint assistant to my CV. Just quickly for everyone, if you do want to take this further or want to start the application process, please feel free to contact us on the information that you can see on your screen, and we can get the ball rolling. I've got a few questions. I know that there's one that's popped up here in the Q&A section, so I'll ask that one first and then jump into my questions. And then, yeah, for anyone who's still on, if you do have anything you want to ask, there we go, I can see them popping up as we speak. So let's just dive into them. The first one's from a student called Chloe, and she says, is a foundation diploma required if you want to study fashion design?
Good question. Well, it depends which course you want to apply to. Central St. Martin's does ask that students have studied a foundation diploma first, and the students from the Fashion and Textiles Foundation Diploma go through to the fashion courses at undergraduate level. It's usually only a small amount of students that I've ever seen go straight to the bachelor's program in fashion, and that is usually if they've had an exposure or alternative kind of education or opportunity to study fashion that gave them a more comprehensive portfolio. Because I know it can be really tempting to just want to kind of get in there and kind of get on with it, but that opportunity to explore different types of fashion on the foundation is really valuable. And so I say really the vast majority will go through a foundation program first.
Awesome. The next question is from an anonymous student, and they want to know if you could elaborate a little bit more about some of the animation courses that you provide.
Sure. So our animation course is at London College of Communication. So this is a 3-year bachelor's. So some students will study the introduction to design, media and screen first, depending on what animation you've done before. And really that's kind of, it's not all kind of digital animation. So if you were, for example, submitting your portfolio for that course, we'd really love to see lots of, if you've had the opportunity to, whether it's drawing or it could be like it could be something you created physically, like kind of 3D designed animation or digital animation. And so what I would recommend for any of the kind of course specific questions is if you go onto the course page, they will list each of the modules, but also over the next month or so, they will advertise when they are having their open day. This is for any course. And that's a really nice chance as well to get to speak to the course leaders. Thanks.
Awesome. Herbert is asking, what are the requirements for a photography at master's level?
It depends on the photography course, but broadly speaking, at master's level, we will ask for a related undergraduate degree. So we'd really be looking for a photography, film, undergraduate degree or equivalent work experience, because the portfolio that we're looking at postgraduate level is really quite advanced. So that master's year is really the opportunity to specialize. So we don't go over the basics. So we'd want it to be quite self-directed. So usually with the master's programs as well, we ask for a study proposal. So we're really looking for students to already have that direction. So for example, if it was documentary photography, it could be that you already come to us with something you are looking to or have started to explore in that area. So it's definitely a bit more, it's an advanced level.
Awesome. Sorry, Rachel, I'm just going to keep going through them until
Fire away, keep.
Stipe is asking here, and I think this is a two-part, we can both answer it, but I'll let you answer first. He wants to know, or she wants to know, may I ask, how do I apply? And is there an application fee?
Yep, good question. So for our undergraduate degrees, these are moving for entirely and to apply through UCAS from this year. But something that's quite important to remember is that our foundation, our pre-degree programs are not on UCAS. UCAS is just for undergraduate. There is a postgraduate provision as well, but mostly undergraduate. And so you will have 5 choices through UCAS, but what we would encourage you to do is also apply for the foundation, which is directly via our website. So that doesn't affect your options on there, but you'll need to apply through the website as well as UCAS.
And just to jump in, to double up, basically that's where we all come in. We will assist you with the UCAS application as well as submitting the foundation through UL's portal that we have on our end as well. So basically we'll help you do it. I think that's the easiest way to move forward. The next question is, and all three that are waiting here, all from anonymous students, so I think they're a bit shy. So the first one is, do you have any advice for research proposals for postgraduate applications to Central St. Martin's, especially in curation?
Yeah, so for research proposals, I think it's really worth reaching out to the course teams to open a conversation with them about what their research priorities are. If you already have an idea or you already have a proposal, then that's something you could send or through Global, that can come to me and I'll help you find the right person to talk to. But usually with a research proposal, it would need to align to the specialist area of staff we have working on that course, and so that would be the first step. But I say if you've started that, maybe send that into Global and I can help you match you up with an academic.
The next anonymous student is asking, what are the average requirements for a matric student to apply?
That's quite a hard one to answer, and for any kind of grade requirement from any curriculum really, because we generally ask just that you have successfully completed high school. There are exceptions where, for say the cosmetic science course, where we'd need certain grades in biology, and for architecture we'd be looking for a science and maths. But aside from that, we're really looking for it's a successful pass, because even if you got the highest grades in your class but you don't have a portfolio, or your portfolio is very basic, it won't make a successful application. So it's a really holistic application.
Okay, and next question is, are there any preferred advanced placement courses for studying architecture at Central St. Martin's?
Yeah, for architecture, they really like anything. So an ideal combination would be art and design, maths and physics. But that could be replaced with another science. But that's probably the most desirable. It doesn't mean that if you don't do one of them, you won't get in, but maths and science is good to take.
And this one I knew was coming is, does UAL offer full scholarships or any kind of funding for students?
Unfortunately, we don't have any full scholarships. We do have 2 fairly substantial scholarships that are means tested for postgraduate students, and we do have a big range of partial scholarships for our international students studying at postgraduate level, which are usually as a discount on the tuition fees. But unfortunately, at the moment at undergraduate level, we don't have any scholarships.
Okay. And then our last question so far, and I'm sure a few more will come through, but our last question is from Tamara, and she wants to know, Are there any different requirements for the foundation programs?
Well, not really in the sense of sort of passing school and personal statement. The differing factor is the content of the portfolio. So whether it would be fashion focused or Ananya, maybe you'd like to speak about your portfolio and application that you put together for the foundation.
Yes, absolutely. So I went in with the intention of applying for interior and spatial design, but my portfolio was actually a mix of just work that I had produced over the years. So a lot of was still were done on sheets, a lot of fine art painting, some collage work that I'd done, and just yeah, some more. My portfolio actually was a lot more fine art based. And I feel like that's another reason why they recommended I do a foundation, so my portfolio is then well equipped for a BA. But if you are sure of what you want to do, then I would say start focusing on that. So a friend of mine who did fashion at UAL, her focus for her portfolio focused on garments that she had made, a lot more sketches on that end, or outfits that she had designed, but it was also a mix of other artwork that she did. So like you had mentioned earlier, of course, the main focus should be the subject that you're applying to, but they also want to see what else you do beside that. So that should definitely also be added and not ignored. And I think another tip with regard to the portfolio, I would say, is try to keep it to 4 or 5 projects maximum, because tutors often get to have to see a lot of portfolios in a day. And that's why a good small number is good enough for them to assess your work and your skill. And I would also recommend that you keep your best work in the beginning and also your second best work at the end, so you start and end on a strong note. And yeah, just a few things with regard to the portfolio that if I can add is make sure your layout is correct, you have a color scheme, there's some sort of uniformity, you annotate. Often we've seen portfolios where names are not mentioned or your images are not labeled, and I feel like that often takes away from the impact of the work. So, just pay attention to the finer details with regard to the portfolio and focus on making it more holistic rather than just focusing on one subject completely.
Thanks.
I think I'm going to give Rachel a bit of a break here with answering questions, and I'll direct these two to Henry and Ananya. This is a general question that we've been getting a lot over the last year and a half, and Henry and I touched on it at the beginning when we were waiting for everyone to join. What has been your student experience, through this whole COVID pandemic? What's life been like on campus? What's the teaching been like? As a student, did you get to have the full experience of what you thought? I know Henry said earlier that he didn't get the experience he wanted, but he did get a new kind of experience, which he wasn't expecting, which was great. So if the two of you could touch on that, I think it would definitely help some students who will probably be in this position next year.
If I can start, I agree with Henry. It was definitely not an easy year because it came all of a sudden, and I think it took us all by surprise, and we were just not prepared for it. A lot of us, like me, I just went back home thinking I'd be there for a month, but I ended up being there for 6 months, and I didn't have a lot of my work with me. So yes, it was definitely hard, but I think what we all learned from it is to adapt to the situation. And as creative students, I think that was our new challenge. Besides our projects that we were given, is how we make the most of the current situation, how we make our models. Like my course requires a lot of hands-on work. So a lot of my course mates started using cereal boxes or things that they found at home to make their models because they couldn't buy materials. So I feel like while it was hard, it also was a new challenge and a new experience, like Henry mentioned, that we all got to have. And even though it wasn't ideal, I think it made us all resilient. And just know that we will be able to survive even though the situation gets difficult. And I think for the students that come in, it's definitely going to be a lot better than it was for the two of us, because I think we're prepared. UAL has a lot of resources in place for blended learning. And I think most people are vaccinated or will get vaccinated if they are planning on coming to the UK. So you will definitely be in a much, much better position than we were, because our tutors are equipped. Everyone who works at the college now knows, how to sort of change their ways of working to adapt to the pandemic. So I think your experience is going to be as close to normal, but certainly better than ours.
Yeah, so I would add on that by like, I definitely agree with a lot of Ananya's points. Like I think that it was like a really difficult time for everyone, and there's a lot of changes that like you couldn't have expected, and definitely got in the way sometimes, or were hard obstacles that we had to overcome. I do think that though there will be some interesting differences if you do choose to study at UAL or at any university, where like I think a lot of the technology of like doing these virtual webinars or having a lecture online, I think will be a lot more common through UAL courses and courses at other universities that will stick from kind of our experience. Or like I know that my course has talked a lot about like, okay, so as we move back towards doing more in-person learning, do we still want to do one-on-one tutorials online because maybe the tutor has more access to more students, or do we still want to record lectures so that people can watch them back, which wasn't a possibility before COVID. And like a lot of these things that I think definitely made learning much harder. There were also a lot of things that made learning much easier, made it more accessible for more people. And I think that'll be interesting to see as we move forward in this experience.
Awesome, thanks guys. It's interesting to hear your experience and your take on it, and glad that you made it through and got to learn or experience something different on top of what you were expecting. So I think that's really cool. Rachel, could maybe you touch on it from the university's perspective, how you have dealt with the pandemic, and obviously going forward, obviously you've learned from this experience and you've got contingencies in place, because I definitely think that'll be something that future students would be interested in hearing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can just start off by saying, and Henry and Anya included in this, that our students have done amazing. They've been so resilient, and what they've created from this experience is, it went beyond expectations. But we've had so many learnings from the last year. And in terms of our provision online, like Henry was saying, there are some real benefits. So in terms of, say, one-to-one tutor time, depending on where you live in London, it could be quite a long way to go in, and so it gives you a bit more flexibility in that way. And we were obviously, through government mandate, we were fully online for a while, but we've been back to blended learning for we did up until the summer term. We're on break now, and we've got a few students starting with us in the next few weeks, and we are delivering in a blended approach this year. But some of the things that we did to adapt to the blended approach was that we know that there are some courses where you have to be there. You've got to be at that station and using those materials. And so each of the course teams spent a lot of time looking at, okay, well, what is really essential? What is the most important to be in class and together? And what was maybe a verbal update? What can go online, or what can we, in terms of last year, what can we do at the beginning of the course that takes advantage of the online learning? And then at the end of the course, or towards the end, middle and end, we'll have the more hands-on stuff when we can get back into the colleges. So we've got lots and lots of kind of support and experience being put into place now for our students coming back. So this year is blended, and this is just really to accommodate for students who are still struggling to get to us, because the situation in the UK, students can kind of get to us quite easily. As Ananya said, the vaccine programs have been rolled out. A lot of people are double vaccinated, but it's so different all around the world, and we want to support our students as much as possible. But the overall hope is that we will go back to as much in person as possible. You know, we love our student community, being in the college and being noisy and being messy and all of those things that make it an amazing place to be. So we're working towards that, but we're not rushing this year because we don't want to leave anybody behind in that process.
Awesome. It's great to hear how the universities have also adapted to the whole situation, and it's nice to know that the uni's taking you know, a hands-on approach to keeping your students happy, and obviously you know, engaged in the work. I think we've got one more question, and I'm not going to keep anyone. I don't think we should keep anyone too much longer on their Friday night, because otherwise you'll be spending it all night with us. But the last question here is, the student wants to know, is there any additional testing that they need to do in order to apply, like SATs or A levels, being, I'm assuming, from South Africa?
No, there isn't a particular, there's no kind of entrance exam. And in terms of different curriculums, we have students from who have different qualifications. So it doesn't, like, from all over the world, doesn't have to be just A levels. We just want wherever you are, that you have completed to the maximum that you could at your high school level, and you've successfully passed through that. So as we were kind of touching on before, it's such a holistic application process. So there's no curriculum that we exclude, but we look at your school education, personal statement, portfolio as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Just want to say thank you guys so much for giving us your time on a Friday night. And I really appreciate all the information and the experience that you guys have given us. Ananya, Henry, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with the university. Rachel, it's always a pleasure having you on. And hopefully we can do these ones in person again. And yeah, and not have too many technical issues if we have to do this again.
Thank you very much for hosting me. I'm very sorry for the technical issues. We'll do something again very soon. As I say, there are webinars coming up, and Henry and Ananya, thank you so much. It's always really good to see you both, and yourself, Nico. And thank you for being my PowerPoint assistant. Anytime.
It's a skill I'm very good at.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great Friday night. And everyone that's joined, you obviously will get an email from us, from the system, just to say thank you for attending. But as Rachel said, there are a few more webinars coming up, so you'll automatically be added to that list. And yeah, if you need anything, please feel free to contact us. But I'll say good night, and thank you again, Rachel, Henry, and Anya, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Night.